And I personally in my life have never experienced anything like this olam. Together, humble, truthful, struggling, and doing Hashem's work. And not taking it for granted. There's one thing we can all agree on. When you have a struggling child in your home, your family is in crisis. You're in crisis mode. That's for sure. There are those in years gone by who, and I challenged them, this goes back 25 years. And I challenged them very stark when they told me that children in crisis are coming from dysfunctional homes. It wasn't my experience. I didn't think my wife and I were particularly dysfunctional. At least not more than other people I saw. And what I recognized and started my journey of being honest and speaking out about this was, let's put the cart, are we putting the cart before the horse? Can we put things in perspective? It's true that when your kid is in the middle of the struggle and you don't have proper hadracha, you don't have a philosophy, you don't have yet a picture of how you're meant to be handling this, chances are you're doing everything wrong. We all did. We all did. And so we threw our homes into dysfunction. Usually that's when some well-meaning person pointed out, take a look, your family's in dysfunction. The fact is, none of us were prepared. No one taught us. We never got classes, ever, about what happens when it goes wrong. What happens when it doesn't work out? What happens when your kids get abused and you don't know about it? From various sources of trauma that happened to them. Did anyone ever tell us that? Was there a manual or a book written in advance that we were all required to read? Just as we got married, just as we started having children, just in case? No. So one thing we can all agree on, that when you have struggling kids in your home, you're in crisis mode. And this is the subject I want to attend to. I've been asked, I take the feedback at each conference. People tell me what they want to hear more of. This is working together. This is the subject we're going to speak about today, about working together. Parents, us, working together to help our children. So here's my thinking. Let me see if I can build a picture, and then we can put into that picture what we're going through and how to understand our struggles and what to do about it. But the primary goal of this presentation is us, parents. This is not about the kids. This is going to be about us, husbands and wives, for those who at this stage of life do not have a spouse. Think about the significant people in your life you interact with, that you work out life with. Think about them as we talk. For the rest of us, this is a journey of us as husbands and wives, as parents of children. What is it that we have to do with ourselves? Because we're being asked something enormous. This challenge of our children needs to take us to a place beyond excellence as parents, as husbands and wives, as spouses. This is us working together. So here's my thinking about what I call our psycho-spiritual functioning. Who are we? What do we come back with? So the fact is, we're all born, we come into this world to fix ourselves. Not the neshama, My Yedid Nefesh, Rabbi Schwartz, often reminds me that we come back with the neshama tahira, as we say in tefillah in the morning. Tikkun neshama is not exactly precise. The klippus on our neshamas, what we're wrapped with. Because Elokai neshama shenasah to be tahira. It's tahir. We're all tahir. Kids, us. But the wrapping, the klippus, the matzav around us needs fixing. And so we all come back with impediments. None of us are perfect. We all come back to we need to fix ourselves in this world. The Sfarim HaKadoshim, both Hasidisha, Litvisha, everyone talks about it. The Gaon talks about it in Yonah, other places, that we need only to take a look at what our struggles, which aveiros that we pulled to, and which mitzvahs that we find so difficult, to get a glimpse into why we're here. If we're honest with ourselves, you see, when we see our struggles and we see what we're struggling with, that's what the Sfarim say, that's why we're here. It shouldn't be embarrassing, it should be exciting. We should be seeing an opportunity. Okay, that's why I'm here, that's what I got to work in. It's not in the way, as we always say. It is our way. Nothing to be ashamed of. I mentioned the other night something that frustrates me so deeply. When Mesilas Yesharim in the introduction, Chovis Adam B'Olamai, and he mentions the three reasons that we're here in this world. Ikar Metzias Adam, what are we here in this world for? La'asos mitzvahs, to do mitzvahs. La'avoid, to avoida. And by now I hope the world will be doing something about the third one, La'amad b'nisoyan. La'amad b'nisoyan. You know, we're busy with mitzvahs, we're busy with avoida, but how busy are we, honestly, with La'amad b'nisoyan? With having a deep relationship to nisyonis, achayim, and understanding those nisyonis are our gifts in this world to help us become who we have to become. To me, it's a pliya atzuma. We don't teach this. We don't recognize it, and we almost see it like the nisyonis are in the way. And as we know, for us at Kesher Nafshi, our problems are not in our way. Problems are our way. Problems are our way. And we have to see that and understand that. What we're doing here, why are we in this world? What's our job? So we come back with that picture. Every single one of us has certain flaws, certain tikkunim that we need to go through, and life will take us through the various stops on the way that will force us to address, to attend to those flaws, and it's just nothing to be embarrassed about. We hide from that stuff instead of embracing it and understanding our weaknesses and why we're here. That's what we're here to work on. And we have to stop being ashamed of it, but instead understand it and recognize it and embrace it. This is why we come back. This is what we're doing here. But it gets a little worse. What happens when we come back? What could happen? So we all everyone had serious challenges in their childhood, in their life. We all went through stuff. I don't think of these things as disorders. I'm going to go through a few of them now to make sense. I think of them as life, as the natural course of life. They don't make us disordered. They're not mental problems. They're just the reality of living in this world. For example, let's start with the most obvious one I mentioned before, this nageh to us, to so many of us, which is still affecting us to this very day, the Holocaust. We think we got over it. We didn't get over it. You ask any therapist working with our community today. And we all know that the Holocaust is chai v'kaim, it's still there. The damage is still there affecting us. We all know it. We all know of families who are still wounded, terribly wounded by what happened to our grandparents, parents and grandparents in the war. For example, there were those families, and who can even comprehend what it was like and what it felt like? But we understand that many families let go of love. They let go of love. To survive, they had to. They didn't love in a natural way because love was too painful. It was too hurtful to see loved ones taken from them. And it was like they shut down love and replaced it with acts of service. They were really good at feeding you. Many of you know that, right? You got fed. They were good at sheltering you. If it was raining, the amount of clothing you had to wear and umbrellas. Snowing, forget about it. They smothered with protection and caring, but what the children didn't feel was love, not love. That's how they survived. And so many families, their culture became built around that we don't love, kissing, all that stuff. I know families to this day that have a hard time, the parents giving a kiss to Friday night, benching the kids and kissing them is like, we don't do that. That's Amerikanische stuff. We don't do that. And the kids are craving it. And the shamas are craving that closeness, that kiss, that love. And it becomes like a cultural, like a shita. But it's really a distortion. And then there were those whose reactions were just full of anxiety and fear. Shelter, protect, any moment the Nazis in Machshemon, any moment they could be coming. We have to watch and guard and protect and shelter and hover over our children, stifling their ability to grow up as independent, healthy, confident people. The Holocaust left a horrible, indelible damage on our community that we are still digging out of, and it will take generations till we're free. And for many families, the damage of the Holocaust became your cultural base on how you're living, on how you're functioning, on how you're bringing up your children. Whereas it's really a distortion. It's an unhealthy distortion. It was necessary. I get that. Totally. And we have to be wise and aware and knowledgeable so that we can get rid of that distortion and we can be free to love, because our children need our love. Our spouses need our love. Without love, we don't thrive. Can I just ask if all the phones can make sure your phones are off, please? Thank you, if you could. Here's another one. Growing up in Israel. Anyone who grew up in Israel or your parents grew up in Israel, see, people are grinning, by the way, I see it. You see, I'll tell you a story. I was once on a United Airlines flight. This is a true story, an amazing story. My wife and I were flying back from Israel on a United Airlines flight. And it may have happened to you, it happened to us. They didn't have a kosher meal. No, it happens. As the stewardess came by and was giving out kosher meals, she offered us a regular meal, and we said, no, we ordered kosher. And she snapped back at me, no, you didn't. You're not on the list. Okay, it's fine. My wife and I looked at each other, we laughed, we said, it's okay. And I said, we are on the list. We ordered a kosher, but no, you didn't. She snapped back. It was like crazy. It was like weird. And we said, it's fine. We don't have to eat. We're good. It's okay. And she was like irritated at us that we wanted this kosher meal. We went to sleep. In the morning, I got up and I went to the back of the plane and I asked for a cup of coffee. I said, is it too late? They were landing. I said, excuse me. I asked, I'm an Englishman, what can I do? I was polite. There was no in Borough Park. I'm not from there because I say please and thank you. Sorry, okay. So I asked, is it okay? Can I get a cup of coffee, please? And she said, it was this stewardess was there with all the Sevet of United Airlines. And they said, sure. She makes me a coffee. I said, thank you. I really appreciate it. And then she looks at me and she said to me these words. She says, you're different. And I said, what do you mean? She said, well, you're so polite. I said, what do you mean? I was like, I hadn't chapped what she meant. And she said, well, this is the Tel Aviv flight. She said, it's unbelievable. She said, they punished them in United Airlines by putting them on the Tel Aviv flight. I was shocked. I said, what do you mean? She said, well, people are so impolite. They're so, I said, is that why you spoke to me the way about it? She said, yeah. Everyone's so impolite, so tense. They're so I said to her, look, I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed that you're telling me such a thing. I'm telling you straight up it's wrong and we shouldn't be impolite. But if you want, I could explain it to you. If you want, I'll explain it. And she said to me, okay. And now there were 9 of them, the whole 7 of the plane in the back, listening to a drasha in the back of United Airlines. And I said to them like this, again, I want to repeat, it's wrong. And there's no excuse. We ought to be polite. It's not respectful. I apologize. But if you want, I'll explain it to you. I said, after the Holocaust, when the Nazis, Mashmon, tried to kill every single one of us, destroy us off the face of this earth, the United Nations voted barely and gave us a little bit of our land back. A little bit they gave us that we could survive. And you know what happened the next day after we got that land back? All millions, tens of millions of Arabs tried to kill us all the next day. And then they tried again in 1956. And they tried again in 1973. And then they sent their families and children and people onto our buses with bombs, blowing us up in the streets, killing us. Where terrorists try every day to kill us just because we're a Jew. And then there's people who want to travel and they get on a United Airlines flight and they're not polite about this cup of coffee. I said, they're trauma victims. What do you want? You got a whole country of trauma victims. Give them 2 weeks. They'll be in America. They'll relax. They'll say please and thank you. You have a whole country of trauma victims, of people who grew up in a certain toughness, a certain, a protectiveness, living within a veil of trauma. And that goes on generationally too. And it's hard to see it in yourself, that you feel reactive. If you've lived there long enough, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It doesn't take long. Then I want to say a sensitive one. The world of Baalei Tshuva. The world of Baalei Tshuva is a fascinating world because most Baalei Tshuva, Erlecha, wonderful Baalei Tshuva, discover that when they're young, they're very much wanted and welcome. in everyone's homes. Everyone wants them. Everyone loves you. They can't do enough for you, actually. And then you get married and they're so happy for you. And then you have children and they all gather around at your kiddush and your bris and you feel like so ma'usha, so wealthy, so valued. And then your kids go to school and you discover that people don't want to send their kids over to your house because there's exposure. You know that word? Exposure. Here, there's a lot of nodding heads, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. The exposure. No one prepares you for this. How is someone who grows up out of the community and they're desperately trying to do God's work and bring up their children in a healthy way and send them to Mostas HaTorah so they should be imbued with Torah and Yira, when, for example, there's a little tiny girl who wears little tiny, what do they call them? Bobby socks? Is that what they call them? Right? When is like the cutoff? Apparently everyone else knows except the Bali Juba. Everybody else knows when you're not, there's a mitzvah in the Torah, thou shalt not wear those socks anymore, that everyone else knows, and only the idiots don't know. And guess what? When, God forbid, they're a day late in changing over to tights or whatever they wear, they're condemned as if like, are you an idiot? You didn't know? What are you doing? And so, in such a cultural environment of confusion, where there's so little hadracha, little guidance, and very little sensitivity, what there is veiled criticism, looking at people as if they're stupid, which almost always, without fail, translates into the shame and embarrassment of parents who will then react to their children to micromanage their lives, to control them, to get those stupid socks off now because we're embarrassed and we feel like fools. Where's the sensitivity? Where's the kindness? Where's the understanding? There isn't. I assure you there isn't. And all this translates, all this stuff, the trauma, the stress of the things I've described so far, all translates into our children, where we want them to be model citizens so that we don't face our own shame and our own embarrassment, where we don't get triggered in our own trauma place. And it all hurts our kids. Here's another one. This one I really hope I don't offend anyone. So they wish to help, and I was davening earlier that I won't. Children of Yichus. I'm not going to say another word. Can I just leave that one? I'm cringing. Yeah. Should we all just sit with that one for a moment? It doesn't have to be bad, by the way. Oh, but the burden that children of Yichus, in my office, children with certain famous names have told me stories of their experiences growing up, how they hated themselves and that name. Little kids who walked into class and the Rebbe said, "Stand up, you know who's here?" And they meant well. Everyone means well. The damage so profound inside. Unrealistic expectations for such children that just bury them in shame and embarrassment, feeling I can't be that and I've disappointed the legacy. I've let everyone down. Then, of course, there's the 20% minimum, and I say it minimum, of sexual abuse victims in our community. The 20% minimum, the 1 in 5 that we know have been sexually abused in our community. Where even to this very day, the struggle with denial about this sugya is as alive today as it was 25 years ago when we first started working at it. Where the denial is so deep, the difficulty to face it honestly and humbly, the lack of recognition that the true Kiddush Hashem is in being honest about ourselves and our weaknesses. Being honest about our struggles is the true Kiddush Hashem, not hiding, not pretending. How many kids walk around and how many adults, every time I speak, if the subject is on sexual abuse, how many adults I see in the community are adult survivors of childhood sexual abuse, still hurting and struggling, still finding their lives difficult, their marriages hurt and wrecked because of it. And the wounds run deep, as any survivor knows. And we're still, as a community, we're not there. We're not honest. We're trying to be, but we're not. And then let's add what happens to us when we come back. Let's add to that all the kids, nebuch, with either true learning disabilities or with de facto learning disabilities, problems, issues, struggles in life that simply verstopft the kop, where you simply can't have an open mind to be able to learn properly in school because you have tsaros, medical, physical, emotional, financial tsaros in the home. And the kids feel it and they can't learn. And in our world, if you can't learn, well, we know what that does to a person. We know how destructive that is. What happens to us when we come back is all these kind of things happen to us when we come back and impact our lives. On top of the tikkun neshama that we came back, the tikkun on those klippas that we came back before we came to the world. And then we come here and have to face all this. This is not disorders, Rabbi Say. This is life. This is our very life. This is how we live. Did I leave anyone out? If I did, do me a favor, come tell me. Like you're a mystery. I'd love to study you. So we have these two layers on us. What happens? So what happens to us? When we come back to this world with our klippas, our tikkunim that came in the Shemayim, which is why we're here, and then we go through these struggles, these life issues. By chance, we were brought up in Israel. By chance, we had Holocaust survivor parents and grandparents. By chance, we were abused. But it's not by chance. This is the Eibishter's world. And we go through these things, and that's weiter struggle for us to fix ourselves. And then we're meant to have healthy marriages and bring up nice kids. So what happens to us? So I want to say a chiddush here. And I'm open-minded if anyone wants to come and after the weekend. Think about it first through the weekend. But if you want to discuss it with me, if you disagree with me, I'd like to hear. We discussed at the very first Kesher Nafshi conference, I mentioned something I'd learned from Dan Sinkel's book, Parenting from the Inside Out, the 4 S's. Right, we're all familiar with that. You've watched the droshes, I'm sure. Safe, secure, seen, and soothed. And we talked about it as a concept. The reason I liked it, he mentions it almost in passing. The reason I liked it so much, is because that model, safe, secure, that we bring up our children, making sure we try and help them feel safe, secure, seen and soothed, is a model of, in my mind, is a model of creating resilience. That means that as we go through the struggles of life that the Eibishter puts in front of us, if we can put into our children that model of safe, secure, seen and soothed, if we could develop those 4 theses with them and help them grow in those 4 areas, we're helping create resilience. That means the power to bounce back. We will help them bounce back despite what happens, and in fact, even grow and become who they are because of the problems. We're giving them the tools for life. When I saw it first in the book, it blew my mind. It was almost like Agav. By me, I saw it as a merkaz, as a concept that was so profound. So what happens when you don't have, which is true for most of us, let's be honest. Most of us did not grow up with a solid bedrock of safe, secure, seen and soothed from our homes. I believe that I was one of those fortunate people that my mother, Aleh Shalom, gave me all 4, made me who I am. I think that's why I am who I am, because she gave them to me. Most people are not zeicha to have all 4 of those in their childhood. And so they're not resilient. So what happens to us as we go through life? This is the chiddush I'd like to share. And I'd like everyone to really drink this in, because this may save your life, what I'm about to say. This may be one of the most important things you're going to hear that could change the course of your life and give you a focus on how to develop yourself in a way that's always been elusive. This may be it. What I believe is as follows. Everyone, when under severe stress, when we feel threatened, everyone regresses. We all regress. And essentially, conceptually, we have 2 states inside us that we regress to. Those who've done, the therapists here and others who've done somatic work will be familiar with what I'm saying, but I'm going to say a focus in this work that I'm not sure you would have heard before. Maybe. I believe that we all have 2 states that we go back to. And if we think about ourselves, but maybe better is think about how our spouse sees us, we might be able to find those states more easily. One state is like a 5-year-old. Well, here's the 2. One is a 5-year-old and one is a 14-year-old. I want to explain. The 5-year-old in us is when we act like a baby. When we realize that we've been threatened, criticized, unloved, uncared for. Actually, the 5-year-old reacts when there is a profound lack of safe, secure, and soothed. Those 3. When you feel a lack of safety or security or being soothed and cared for, especially by your spouse, we regress into like a babyish state. And if we look at ourselves honestly, I think we can all notice when we've sort of been that sulky, moody, babyish, just not myself, that child. You're acting when your spouse could even say to you, you're acting childish, or when you know you're acting childish. There's a wounded little child that we all have, like a 5-year-old inside, and when we don't get our safe, secure, or soothed enough, we regress and become that baby, that child. We're looking to be safe, and the child takes over. Similarly, what is a 14-year-old? I used to say 15, but it's now 14. I think with, over the Deiros, it's a year earlier. The 14-year-old is when a child actually thinks they've become an adult. like, they're big. Boys at 14 can be as big as their mothers, right? So as far as they're concerned, I'm a player in an adult world. And they want to be seen. They want to be noticed. They'll debate the kishkas out of you on everything. Whatever you say, they'll have a comeback. Yeah, but why? But what? But where? But when? Who says? But what if? They debate and argue because they want to be seen. It's part of a normative development of a human being. When you grow up, you want to separate from your parents. Ultimately, a person leaves home. That process of naras, of separation, happens around adolescence. At 14, it's there. By 15, for sure. Ask any 15-year-old. I always say to them, please, can I talk to you? They say, why? I say, because there's nothing you don't know. You're 15. This is great. I have opportunity to learn everything. 14-year-old is this child who wants to be seen so badly. You machshav them, machabed them, value them. They crave that need. And frankly, most of us didn't get enough of that when we were 14. And so there's another wounded part to myself that I regress into when I'm not seen, when I'm not noticed, not taken seriously, not thought of, where I regress into that 14-year-old and start fighting for my needs and arguing and debating and trying to get my needs met. These two childhood states accompany us throughout life. And when we're under stress, when we're under tension, that's where we go. We go back to one of the, and it's not pretty. Ask your spouse what it's like when you regress to that place. Just ask them tonight, privately. Watch how you feel when they answer you. Here's the interesting thing. Watch your nervous system. I'm serious. Take a deep breath and watch your nervous system. When you ask that question of your spouse, do I ever act like a baby? Am I ever argumentative and debating and don't agree and just fight with you? Ever? No, honey, never. Not you. You're mamish. Wow, Russell doesn't know what he's talking about. Woo. But watch what your nervous system feels like when you ask your spouse that question and you say to him, please be honest with me and tell me. It's not pretty. We've talked many times. I'm building up to something. I hope you stay with me on this journey so you'll see where we're going. We've talked, I gave one of the Kesher Nafshi conferences, we talked about trauma and how it affects us. You see, we have here a beautiful thing called the prefrontal cortex. It's the front part of your brain. It's fabulous. It helps you be empathic. It helps you have attuned communication. That means where you actually listen to your spouse and hear them. It helps you be sensitive and thoughtful, altruistic, compassionate. That front part of your brain is where you get stuff done. It's where you have relationships that are fulfilling when you're there. But when you get threatened, it's not exactly an on-off switch. It's more like, a dial. But as you get threatened, you go out of that part of your brain into the limbic system, where the only thing you really care about is, am I safe? In that place, correctly so, the question of safety is all that counts. In that place, you appear to others to be self-centered, maybe even selfish, focused only on your own interests, which is the way Hashem made it. It's the way it should be when you feel threatened. But just imagine if we don't own the fact that this happens to us frequently, more frequently than we would be willing to admit and acknowledge. And we actually regress into one of these two states quite frequently, offline, in a place where we're disconnected because of safety, because I just want to feel safe. Not to own this is to guarantee I keep going there. And when you go there, you do not create an environment of safety in which your children will be able to flourish. We have to own this and respect it and understand it if we're going to create safety for our children. So this is life. Under normal circumstances, this is life. This is not, this is nothing to do with, mental health. This is life. I'm describing how people live. So how do we deal with it under normal circumstances? We recognize, we reflect upon ourselves, and we use our avodas Hashem, we use Musa, we use our marriage, because there's nothing like your marriage to reflect back to you what's wrong with you. Nothing like it. And we use our avodas Hashem and Musa and marriage to help heal this. This is our journey. This is life. This is nothing to do with going to therapy. This is just the way life is or should be. Where we struggle through life trying to get rid of that ego. Where we struggle through life trying to keep ourselves online so that we can be connected, so that we could be other-centered, center on someone else and not on ourselves. Because when we're offline, I just center on me, because I want to be safe. So we use our avodas Hashem to get rid of that ego. We want to identify the flaws in ourselves, and we see them when we go off, when we act like a baby, when we debate like a 14-year-old, or act childish like a 5-year-old, and get pouty and sulky and moody. This is all a process for us to see ourselves, perfect ourselves, grow, so we can find the reason we're here and recover from whatever it is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu puts us through so that we may become who we're meant to be. This is life. Recognizing this helps us see what we have to fix. And most of all, it helps us, if we're honest about it, it forces us to develop new skills, new strengths, new talent, new awareness, new understanding, new compassion, new kindness and sensitivity to others. It forces us into a road, a journey towards our own perfection. It's just awesome. It's awesome. This is life. This is the way life is. It's the way life should be. Where we're constantly working on ourselves, trying to grow. And trying to be honest, if we can, about those two child states within us, where we go off and act babyish or act teenage-ish. This is just life. Under normal circumstances, that's fine. We can take our time doing that, and the journey of our life is that. That's what our life is. Bisman Sonsek, by the end, we all hope we got somewhere. Halavai will say on the, on the Matzeva, he got somewhere. Halavai. Halavai. But when we have the sugya that we have, when we're gifted with our struggling teens, with our struggling children, we have to address this regression. This is not a joke. This is not something we take our time with. This is not something we can afford just to spend our life working on. When you have struggling children in your home, this is your work. This is your chayv kadosh. This is the most important thing you can do with your life, and you cannot afford just to do it the rest of your life and hope by the end of your life you got somewhere. Because if you don't address this, then you're not going to be able to help your children. Because frankly, the greatest thing that gets in the way of us helping our children is ourselves. Let's be honest. It's us. It's our own struggles and regressions and difficulties and our imperfections and ego that get in the way of us doing all this wonderful work we know we have to do with our children to help them back. For us, we can't be patient and wait. We have to throw ourselves aggressively into this work, to work on ourselves and get the ego out the way and understand our own regressions and what takes us offline so that we can work on those things, so we can recover from it because our children need us to. And if we don't, then we can never model for our children healthiness. We can never really help them back because drushes, as we all know, that doesn't work with our children. We all tried that, right? We've all given that up, right? If you're here, you gave up drushes. I remember once I gave a drusha. It was probably one of my early drushes. It was fantastic. It was, if I may say so, it was a fabulous drusha. It took about 15, 20 minutes. Our daughter was in Baltimore at the time. She called me from a park, it was days before mobile phones, so it was a corded phone box on the corner of some park. She called, and I gave a wonderful chizuk tika drasha. Wow, did I give her a good drasha. And at the end of the 15, 20 minutes, when I said to her, so what do you think about what I said? Nothing. And I called and called until someone picked up the phone and said, what do you want? Who is this? I gave that drasha to the wind in the park. She probably left about 3 seconds into it. We've done drashas. We're finished with drashas. Drashas won't work. Modeling on us, watching us, seeing us, working on ourselves, seeing us working on our regressions, working on maintaining ourselves as healthy people. That is the essence of Avodas Hashem. The essence. To work on my midas. It's the essence of all Avodas Hashem. When they see that, maybe we have a chance. And the worst part of that regression is when we trigger each other. When husbands and wives, when the parents of our children observe us triggering each other. That's the worst. That's the most damaging for them. That's the most unsafe life our children can have when they see us arguing, debating, fighting, regressing, protecting ourselves, which I understand, and I repeat, I described all the natural processes that unfortunately bring us to that regression and bring us to act in a self-protective fashion when we're offline. I understand that. But when our kids see that, it creates the greatest unsafety for them and takes any desire they may ever have to want to be part of our lives. It takes it from them. See, our chayv kadosh is each other, is to use our marriages, our lives, our relationships with each other as the primary tool for helping our children recover from their hurts and wounds and struggles and crises. The primary tool is us. And it's our marriage, it's our relationships that help bring our children back when they observe and see what they see. It helps bring them back to being healthy people. It helps them recover from their own traumas. And without it, it is exceedingly difficult for them. A Pasha can't overstate how important this is, that we acknowledge and face our own imperfections, particularly the regressions that we do. When we go offline and we start feeling threatened, because remember I said we're in crisis mode. Without struggling children, we always feel in crisis mode. And in crisis mode, we get threatened. And when we get threatened, we get scared. When we get scared, we get controlling. And then we put each other offline. And our kids need us to be online, compassionate, present, if we're going to help them. So what's the 4 steps? I want to give 4 steps towards recovery from this. How do we do this? How do we do this? How do we get ourselves back online? Is everyone familiar? Do you all understand what I mean about offline? Are we clear about that? Offline, when you know you're not yourself, when you know you're acting in a threatened state, when you don't have access here where you should. First of all, you have to recognize you actually have those 2 states. First, you have to recognize we all do it. It's a matter of degree. Some do it more, some do it less, more frequent, infrequent, more intense, less intense, but everyone does it. Everyone does it. So we have to be humble enough to face it, that we actually do this and we do regress and we do go offline. We have to be honest that that's what we're looking at, to take control of that experience, to help ourselves stay present. We have to accept that when you're offline, chances are you're hurting the person you love. If you want motivation to really work on this, it's knowing that when you're offline, when you're regressed, chances are you're hurting the person you love. You're hurting them. And not only are you hurting them, but you're hurting your kids. Because your kids need to see that love between you, that respect between you. So we must work on this. We have to commit ourselves to healing these wounds. If you know you have them, heal them. Find someone. Whether you need therapy or you can do it yourself or self-help. In our work with struggling kids, we don't have options and choices. We have to deal with this. We have to. We don't have choices. We can't wait and just shove this aside. If you know you go offline, if you know you regress, and you know it gets in the way, you have to deal with it. And the 4th thing is learn a way to ground yourself. Learn a way to bring yourself back and be present. Some of you, I believe, have learned grounding. Am I correct about that? Some of you have done work on that. Could I just have, just for myself, does anyone who doesn't know? Everyone who knows exactly what I'm talking about when I say grounding technique, do you mind just a show of hands? Okay, so you're going to forgive me, but we're going to do a grounding right now. For those of you who know grounding and enjoy grounding, enjoy yourself. Because you know you will. For everybody else, I'd like to teach you, because what's the point of us talking about it if you don't take home this tool? So you're going to do this. Well, let's do this together. Can everyone get comfortable? Just sit in your chair, put down whatever you're holding, and let's get comfortable. Is there any way I can sit and do this? And the microphone, can I hold one now? Can I hold a microphone? Is there another one working? Yeah, I'd like to sit. Should I take it off and hold it? Oh, he's going to... It won't be... You know what, I'll stand. I'll do it standing. I'll do it standing till he comes. I'm going to do it standing till he comes. If you can find him, I'll sit. Okay, if you can. But let's do this together. I can put this down. Yeah, but the camera, I think, is up there. And I'll be down there. So I'm going to do this standing. You can see it? If I sit, 1 second, let's have a look. You see me? Oh, put the lectern. Yeah, do you want to take it? Gosh, I didn't expect all this mess. There's a wire on there. Yeah? Okay. No, I don't want to. I don't want to mess with it. You know what? I don't want to mess with the camera. That's good. Okay. So let me just. Oh. Okay. So let's just do this. Let me explain what we're going to do. Yeah. Can I? No, I just want to sit facing them and talk. Can I do that? Can you get the camera on me? You're the best. He's going to move. You're going to move the camera down. Amazing. Technical people here are the best, by the way. Okay. Is okay? We ready? Can I sit down? Good. Okay, so again, I want to repeat for everyone who knows grounding, enjoy yourself. This is going to be geschmack. And for everybody else, let's go home with a tool that when you get incredibly stressed and you recognize you're going offline, you understand offline means you're not here anymore. It means you're in your limbic system. It means you're in fight and flight. It means you're in a place where you just want to be safe. You'll know it, by the way. Just notice how upset your spouse is with you. Now, I don't know if you ever had that experience. Me personally, never. I mean... I had the best teacher. But this is a gift. Rabbi said it's such a gift. It's such a beautiful gift if you recognize the gift of your spouse is to reflect back to you when you're not yourself. You ever had the feeling, I'm not myself? And you know you're hurting your spouse. You know that. Just see it. Take a look at their face, their facial expression. You're hurting them. You're offline. Chances are you're offline. So we're going to learn grounding. Here's what we're going to do. Okay, so get relaxed. First of all, everyone get relaxed. Are we okay here? We're going to enjoy this, right? I know you didn't expect this, but this is good stuff. This you can take home with you. Gentlemen, I recommend you do not do this in the middle of Shmoneh Esrei. Chazal Sashatz is fine, but not Shmoneh Esrei. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Okay, feel your feet on the floor. Just wiggle your feet a bit so you can feel the feet. Just feel the floor. And you can feel yourself sitting in the chair. And I like to do it with my eyes closed. I recommend that for everyone, but you could certainly watch if it doesn't disturb you. So feel your feet on the floor, feel the chair, the seat underneath you, your weight on the seat. And feel your back against the back of the chair. And feel held. See if you can just pause for a moment and just feel held. Just feel yourself held by the chair. And let's take a few deep breaths. And maybe just wiggle your shoulders a bit just to get the kinks out of your neck and your shoulders. Take a few very deep breaths and feel yourself on that chair. Let's take a few more deep breaths. Just notice if you feel any tension inside. Just be aware. Tension, you feel like a little stress, a little pain, maybe in the chest, stomach. You feel a little stress somewhere. Just notice it. Just be aware of it. And breathe deeply. Just breathe deeply. And see if you can draw your mind to a memory of a place, maybe a vacation, somewhere you went, an object maybe. something that when you think about it, could even be a person, could be someone in history maybe. But when you think of that place or that object or that vacation, that scene, it brings tremendous relaxation and happiness to you. And just breathe and see if you can notice that and think about that place. For me, it was a fishing trip with my father, Shalom, when I was 15. We're in the south of England on a shingle beach. I can hear the waves as they lap up onto the beach. I can hear the fog siren from the lighthouse down the beach. I can hear the seagulls. I can taste the salt in the air. I can feel the warmth of the sun as it comes through the clouds. See if you can find a place, a memory, something from your past, that when you focus on it, when you just train your mind to think of it, you feel that little knot inside you relax. You can feel the tension melt. As you sit and just breathe and take your mind to that place. And just sit and enjoy that moment. This is your resource. This is your gift. That when you feel terribly stressed, when you feel offline, you take a moment and you go to this place and you focus your mind only on that great memory, that wonderful scene, that peaceful picture. And breathe slowly till you bring yourself back online, until the threat has passed. Until you feel yourself become you again. This is a simple grounding. Consider it a gift to yourself. That when you're under terrible stress and anxiety and fear, before you react, before you say anything, before you act out of your 5-year-old or your 14-year-old, go here. Take a moment and go to this place. And then return to life. Okay. I hope everyone, hello? 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 I know. We there? It's offline. Very good. It's offline. Are we online? No. Okay, I'll go here. Hello? Yes, we're on. Okay, so I really hope everyone enjoyed that. Take that home with you. When you recognize you've gone to that place, take a moment. It doesn't take long. Just ask for just a few minutes and go and sit somewhere quietly and come back online. And then we go back to life. We are under crisis mode almost all the time. We live in crisis. We have to be respectful that because we live in crisis, chances are we will frequently go offline. Respect it. Don't be afraid of it. Don't be ashamed of it. But take a moment and ground yourself so we can then go back to life with the prefrontal cortex back online, where we can have attuned communication, where we can really connect, where we can be Kesher Nafshi. We can be in Kesher. We can be connected. Because that's what this program is all about. It's teaching us how to connect and reconnect with our children. And the person you want to connect with most is your spouse. Modeling that connection with your spouse is the greatest gift you're ever going to give your kids. There is no gift greater. There are no bums, gifts, allowances. There's actually no drugs or anything else on earth that benefits a child, even in their mind, more than when they observe the love between their parents. It's the most healing and stabilizing thing we can offer our children. And that brings us to the title of today's presentation. Working together to help our kids. This was a preamble. This was an introduction. So you can understand why it's so crucial, this subject of working together to help our children. Because without it, it's exceedingly difficult to see the payers and results we look for. What time do I have till Gedalia? What time? Okay, so let me introduce an idea. And then we're going to, afterwards, go into the meat and material. Here's an idea. My good friend, Rabbi Schwartz, who joined us in Mezabush, and he joined us here for the first time, my Yedid Nefesh, he and I talk a lot about these inyanim, and he has a favorite joy when he speaks. He used to speak as a Rav about Shalom Bayis. He gave it up. And he and I feel the same way. He likes talking about Machloikas Bayis, not Shalom Bayis. Machloikas, am I right? Machloikas Bayis. It's our favorite subject. Why? Because Machloikas Bayis is really the issue. Shalom's easy. The problem is when you're having a Machloikas. That's the problem. When you're different, when you disagree with each other, especially us who are in crisis mode and frightened and terrified and start disagreeing with each other. The question is, how do you have a productive Machloikas? How do you disagree in a way that can help your children and not hurt your children? And it turns out, actually, it's the best thing in the world, Machloikas Bayis. Through that, we teach so much to our children that stabilizes and makes them feel safe and secure by them learning how we disagree, how two different people get along with each other and respect and love each other. This is so meaningful and powerful for us to help our kids recover and to come back to healthiness. There are two common outcomes of Machloikas Bayis. One when it doesn't work out very well, and one when it does. When it doesn't work out well, it leads to regression. It leads to feeling threatened. It leads to criticism, to blame, to shame, to argumentativeness. And that almost always forces a regression on someone to protect themselves because they feel threatened and criticized. It takes them to a place of unhealthiness. It takes them out of the prefrontal cortex. Machlokas bias, not handled properly, takes us to a place, an infantile, regressed state, where we certainly can't help our kids in that place. Impossible. It puts us into a fight and flight. It brings out the worst in us. Let's be honest. When we're in a matzav where we feel threatened and criticized, undermined, it brings out the worst in us, because basically what we're trying to do is protect ourselves. That's the outcome we want to avoid. What's the desired outcome? The desired outcome, if we learn this properly, well, this is what we're going to be discussing this now and in the next session. The desired outcome is that it's gufa the machlokas between you that creates love and harmony between you and love in your home. It's the very fact that you're different and you feel differently, even in a crisis mode, about what to do or what to say or how to handle a situation, where you handle it properly, that actually creates the love that you really want between you and the security and stability of your children, of their lives in your home. It's the difference between you that can bring you to that love. When we've talked about this many, many times, that defy me more than I can love you, right? The theme of how we try and help our kids as they defy us and we love them back more through their defiance. It's dafka when they're defiant that we can heal them. Because if they're compliant, then they're just doing it for us. They're not healing. But when they're defiant and we love them back and we love them strongly, that's when they heal. So the process for us is to learn to respect the reality that we are going to disagree with each other very strongly. As husbands and wives, we've talked, as other drashas we've said in previous years, the chances of us getting along naturally is 0. Men and women were made by Rabbi Shimon not to get along naturally. And it's that process of us working on each other, on ourselves rather, to respect and connect and love and care and tune in, while maintaining who I am. It's that process that actually creates love. What do we say? I think we've said it almost at every conference because it's so crucial. Love is the emotion, experience, or feeling that occurs when, on a consistent basis, husband and wife are able to put the other's needs before their own needs when the two sets of needs are in conflict. If your two sets of needs are not in conflict, you don't create love. You have a pleasant life, maybe, but that doesn't create love. But when the two of you feel strongly differently about anything in life, and you have strong feelings, and you work out how to attend to each other's needs and work hard to put the other first, to respect their needs, and you both work at it, that creates love. And it's that kind of love that our children need now if we're going to help them through their parshas, if we're going to help them recover, if we're going to help them survive. They need to witness and see this and feel this. Otherwise, everything else, it just doesn't work. In practice, what does it mean that we're going to disagree with each other and work out how to meet each other's needs? In practice, what am I doing? I'm getting the chance to recognize that I'm not always right. Now, that's a novel idea for some people. But the fact is, what is the chance of me being always right? The fact that I feel strongly a certain way about something, that can't make me right. And what's so interesting is that what's the chances of my spouse agreeing with me fully with what I believe is right? 0. So in a healthy marriage, what we're working towards is understanding that the first thing I get to realize is that I'm not always right. And this, like, as I said, that's a novel idea for many people, because we hide behind the belief that we are always right. And when we get married, we very quickly realize it's not true. When we embrace that truth and we go on the journey of discovery to realize I'm not always right, and on the contrary, my spouse can teach me, and I want to learn their truth. As I go on that journey, I free myself from my ego. I do my job in this world. I move on that journey to fulfill why I'm here in the first place. But most of all, I get to realize that I was threatened and therefore offline by the fact that my spouse thought or felt differently to me about something crucial, something with the kids, something with the family. And I get to realize that I can stay online, I can stay connected, I can honor their point of view, their feelings, and stay connected to that by respecting it, and the magic of love starts to happen. As long as I stay locked into my own belief of me being right, then I don't have the magic of love. I won't experience love. But true love comes to a couple, to a relationship, when you're willing to step outside your own ego and respect someone else's point of view and embrace it and love it and accept it as equally as you accept your own. And that's when love happens. And imagine the benefit and the gift to our children when that happens. What is love then? It's the acceptance of the other person, your spouse, the acceptance of their right to feel differently to you. Can I just say that again so you get that? The deep acceptance of the right of your spouse to feel differently to you is what creates love. And what we're going to discuss now is this is the heart of the crisis chinuch approach. Whether you call it twisted parenting, crisis chinuch, whatever, working with our children, the heart of this approach is the ability of us to bring love, true love, into our homes where our children will want to be close to us. They'll want to stay connected to us. They will want to learn from us. They'll want to be in our world, in our daladamas, whatever that means, because we've created a loving environment and there's nothing more meaningful for them than that. And the place we create that is between ourselves, husband and wife, when we create true love in our homes. We create the foundation, the fabric on which we build crisis chinuch. And unless we do that first, the chances are that all the well-meaning interventions may not work.